Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Cycles Market Update. It's your host, Gianni DePoce. We're back here on Friday. After an interesting week in many markets, we had a pretty eventful week from the geocosmic standpoint. We just had Venus ingress into the sign of Capricorn, and on the same day, squared Jupiter. So some big moves in stocks and currencies this last week. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened. I'll go ahead and share my screen here, starting off with the Dow Jones. Finished off the week relatively near the lows as we continue to correct from the high that formed. In this case, it was on December 1st. So we're correcting a little bit, but still overall near the highs. We continue to see weakness in the NASDAQ, which is much lower on a relative basis compared to the Dow. You notice how on the Dow, it was near the highs, or it actually exceeded the highs from mid-August, but the NASDAQ is nowhere near that. So now, Saturn's in the last decan of Aquarius, and I think that's going to be a big theme looking forward into 2023. That is Saturn finally leaving Aquarius, and perhaps we could see some better performance by tech and growth segments of the market. Let's go ahead and take a look at interest rates. We also had some other key signatures this week. We had a square between Venus and Neptune on the 4th of December, followed by an opposition between the Sun and Mars on the 8th. And we saw some notable moves in interest rate markets as well. And we saw the 10-year interest rate continue its correction over the last week, but caught a little bit of a rally into weekend. So we are in a time period where reversals could happen given the geocosmic signatures. Venus rules currencies, and currency movements do impact interest rates. So I think it's important to keep in mind because as we look ahead into next week, the only real signature that is worth noting is a square between the Sun and Jupiter. So speaking of which, just take a look at crude oil ETF here. USO fell to a new multi-month low. Crude oil has basically all but erased its gains from 2022. And so when we have the aspect between the Sun and Neptune next week, we could look for a notable move in the crude oil market. Not to mention, we just had the square between Venus and Jupiter. So Jupiter and Neptune are the co-rulers of crude oil. So could we see a reversal, a little bit of a bid? That remains to be seen, but the technical issues continue to mount for crude oil, as we will discuss in the MMA Cycles publication, the monthly cycles report, which is set to come out this upcoming Monday and Tuesday. Let's take a look at the US dollar. I'm going to take a look at the ETF real quick here. It continues to consolidate near the lows. The falling dollar has been a relative tailwind for equity markets, but it's not been a tailwind for commodities, which is interesting. Normally, a falling dollar is bullish for commodities, but when we look at the US dollar, could we be seeing a low form here given the Venus aspects? Venus going into Capricorn would seemingly give governments or authority figures some jurisdiction over monetary matters. And we know, obviously, the dollar is the reserve currency of the world. I want to take a look at precious metals as well. Really strong performances by gold and silver, and that performance continued into on Friday, despite the Jupiter signature, the square between Venus and Jupiter. Typically, precious metals don't like Jupiter signatures, but the fact that we're seeing them still do well under these aspects, I think, says a lot about the changing fundamentals for gold and silver. So silver rallied to a new high. We haven't updated the data yet on Friday, but silver rallied to a new high on Friday, its highest level since mid-April. The last market I want to look at, of course, is Bitcoin. Really not much going on in this space. Bitcoin continues to consolidate its losses, and big thing here is that we're in the bust portion of the boom bust cycle associated with Uranus transiting through Taurus. So really not much to update here, although the likelihood of a low of significance approaching at some time in the not so distant future remains high, and we will keep subscribers to the MMA crypto reports updated on that front. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to look at in terms of markets and charts. Not that much to update this past week. It was pretty quiet overall, but I do have several announcements that are noteworthy, I think, for viewers. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, we do have the MMA cycles report, the monthly cycles report, set to come out on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we update our outlook for stocks, bonds, commodities, and currencies on that one. We also have the 12 signs for 2023 now available on Amazon and on the website. So you should check that out. A nice astrology book there. And then on the 15th of December, we will start mailing out the forecast 2023 books. So if you ordered that, stay tuned. They will be in the mail shortly. Definitely don't want to miss that. We had some really amazing research that we conducted, providing our outlook for the following year. And then looking a couple months ahead, we do have a webinar that Ray will be putting on the 19th of February, and he'll be covering a market outlook there as well. So we've had some inquiries about MMTA3 too, so I would encourage you to stay tuned for that. We're going to be releasing the details of that course very shortly, but we are right now eyeballing a start date in March, April. So stay tuned for that, because we keep getting questions about it, but we are hearing you. We are seeing your questions. So just stay tuned. Check us out at www.mmacycles.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.